Hello and welcome to my garden and the dinosaurs who live there. So I thought I'd give you a tour of the garden. I'll do this every month so you can see how it evolves. This is early January and let's face it, the garden is a bit of a mess, truth be known, but you know, it's never the most pristine garden. I'm not that sort of a gardener. I can't even say, oh, you know, I'm keeping it a bit messy for wildlife. I do like to attract lots of wildlife into the garden, but I don't, you know, I have little habitats, etc. I don't particularly just keep it untidy for that reason. There's a lot of garden, I work full time, I've got a lot on, so I can't really keep it as pristine as I would like. And of course I've got the chickens, and I've got to offset what I want them to be able to do in the garden versus how excuse me, how pristine it's going to be. So bear with me, it does get better through the year. Let me just show you where we are in mid-January. Okay, I'm going to swing round, don't get seasick. Right, this is the gable of the house. I'm just going to back up. If I trip over, you can laugh. I think I'm okay. And down the length here, there are various pots, and I have lots of tulips planted in them, so it looks lovely when the tulips come up. I have some ferns and hostas. I'm a bit mad about hostas. I love hostas, but struggle to keep them slug free in this garden, so I have a lot of them in pots. So here we have, and I'm going to have to be quite quick, I guess, I don't want you to get bored. So here we have, I'm not sure what this is. Don't know what that is either. There we go. I'm not sure what that is. Oh, it's a fern. Oh gosh, what am I like? There's a fern there, but I guess that one is going to come back in the better weather. And in the middle, there's a hosta that will spring up. And here we have another two ferns. It's a little cyclamen in there that was flowering, and there's a hosta that will pop its head up in the spring. Then we have some pots with tulips. I think I pointed out the blue heron tulip that I have planted. Oh, there's Hosta Millennium there, and there's Hosta Liberty, I think that one. But I've got a whole load of other tulips. Here's Tulip Angelique. I think that might be pink. I'll have a look and tell you about it later. Some more ferns and a space for a hosta, and some more tubs and my trusty brushes, which I'm in need of all the time. Over the other side, here I've been a bit more clever. I've got some protection over these tubs to stop the squirrels getting in and digging the bulbs up and digging and planting their nuts. And also it stops the chickens from having a scratch about, because the chickens actually love any bare earth, if it's a pot or if it's a bed, they love it. Got some cyclamen there for colour. Another little planter that's got a fern, it's got some cyclamen, some ivy, and there's some other bits and bobs that come up later in the year. Here is one of my cold frames, needing a bit of a paint this year, and another little cold frame. This year I'm quite excited. I don't have a greenhouse. I did have a greenhouse and it blew down. So I replaced it with my potting shed, which I love, and the potting shed's great because I've got a bench in there so I can put plants against, you know, at the windows, so I can still grow on things in there, but it's got plenty of storage space. So no greenhouse, but this space where all of that stuff is in front of the little hedge, I am going to put in the better weather a pop-up plastic greenhouse, and we'll see how long that lasts. I will take it down at the end of the year if it's still alive. But the objective of that is to be able to grow some things indoors. I grow outdoor tomatoes usually. I'd like to grow, and I tried a variety This last year, that was fantastic. It gave me loads of fruit, but it didn't ripen at all because it was outdoors and it should really have been in a greenhouse. So I'd like to be able to do things like that, bring on seedlings, more seedlings than I can accommodate in the cold frame, etc. So watch this space, and I'll show you what I do with the pop-up greenhouse when the time comes to put it up, but certainly not just now. I'm thinking maybe April time, because we've still got some awful weather to come, I'm sure, in the winter time. So I'm babbling on. Here we go. This is down the side of the house. I hope you don't mind the movement. Here we have, back up a bit, here we have the chicken house. You can hear the girls. There's the coop and the run. The girls are out at the moment. They were out running about, but a couple of them wanted to go back in and lay, and the other two decided to join them. Let's see if we've got anyone. Hello. There's Hamble. Hamble's having a wee seat in the nest box because she's going to lay. Sorry, wee girl, I'll just leave you to it. Oh, and who's that popping their head in? Yeah, that's Edith. She also wants to lay. So you've got another wee nest box there, Edith. I'll leave you to it. There we go. So we have the run. The other two girls will be in here. Just in case you're wondering, there's sort of plastic PVC sheeting on the side of the run at the moment. That's to keep the weather out. I take that off in the better weather. And then this leads down to the big shed, the sort of Dutch barn type shed. Lots of good storage in there. I've got a few pots down the side here that have excuse me, bulbs in, and I'll move them as we start to get things happening a little bit later. So here we go. Compost bin, the remains of a little glass house that I had that fell to bits, and another compost bin. I don't have much space, so only that where compost is concerned. And of course I've got lots of chicken poo coming from the girls and stuff from the garden, so some of the stuff I would normally compost has to go in the council recycling, unfortunately. Okay, so here we have, my swing seat. My husband got me that for Christmas 2 years ago, and it's got a nice cushion and a nice canopy, which of course we take off in the winter time. That has been the best ever purchase, because we sit there like two old fogies and we swing on the swing seat and watch the chickens. It's like watching chicken television. Opposite we have the side of the potting shed, and that nest box for the past 3 or 4 years, it's actually a sparrow nest box. There's 3 holes, 3 separate little boxes in that, but actually it's been used by blue tits, and it's wonderful. We sit there swinging along with our coffee or our Coke and watch what's happening in the garden, and watch the blue tits in the springtime feeding their young. It's great. So here you can get a view of another bit of the garden. So I was in a bit of, not a dilemma, a change as I go on. This was just grass when we bought the house. It was in the grounds of a cottage hospital. So we've got lots of mature trees. There's lots of sycamore trees, and there's a Scots pine in the front. But it was just grass, and I was just learning, and I just started planting stuff just to see how it grew. So the objective was to fill the place up, and some things now I've got a bit too big for their boots, too big for their slots, and I potentially need to have a think about separate, thinning things out a little bit. And also I was very focused on growing plants, growing evergreens, so that there was interest in the garden, and then spaces for annual flowers. Now I've become a bit more interested in growing fruit and veg as well, so it's always a bit of a dilemma trying to work out space, what I'm going to plant in the space that I have that aren't permanent beds for shrubs and so on. That's where having containers is a good idea. So you'll see that dilemma as I go through the year. I always want to grow more than actually I can eat, and or I always end up growing more than I can eat, and I want to grow even more because I just love the process of growing. So okay, here we go. We have a little bed here that has I can't remember the name of that. It'll come back to me. It's a variegated variegated shrub. Here is a hydrangea, a sort of white flowered hydrangea, and this is a magnolia Susan. I think it's Susan, yeah. So that's only the second year. This is only the second winter I've had this, but I got flowers last year, which was lovely. Then over here, let me just show you. I have these green men. I think I've got 4 of them now. I'll just zoom in and try not to trip over the swing seat. Don't know whether you've heard of green men. I can't remember the history. I need to look it up. But they are faces, and if you look closely, can I zoom in? Actually, you'll see that his hair and beard, etc., are made up of leaves, and there's little birds and insects and things that actually make up what he actually is. So here's one of my green men. Another couple of nest boxes there on this sycamore. And I've got a few others. There's one over there, and there's one way down the bottom of the garden, and one in the side of the shed. Okay, so we now have a continuity error because the girls are now out of the run. Let them out because the girls had finished laying, and they want to come out and rummage around the garden. So I'll probably trip over them as I go along. So let's carry on the tour. This bed, we have lots of Aquilegia actually will come up. Aquilegia grows really well in my garden. It obviously likes damp, dank clay soil, which is what I have mostly. So lots of Aquilegia. They're really nice. A couple of shrubs there. Burning bush. Not quite sure what their official name is, but they lovely green leaves, and then they go red in the autumn, and then drop the leaves in the winter. Some other shrubs, big phormium there. There's space, there's some hostas that will come up and instantly get eaten by slugs. There's rhododendron and some bits and pieces over there. Let me just turn around here first of all. Do it slowly. We're now looking onto one of the patio areas, and that's the front of the potting shed again. Now this thing that's hanging, I'll just go over to it. It's a bird feeder, but it doesn't have bird feed in it. It actually has cat fur, and it's fur that has been from the brush that I use to groom the cats. And the reason it's hanging there is, or the objective is, to let little birds use the fur to make their nests. And that sounds like it's something that they might do. They haven't really done, they didn't really do much of it last year, but I've got it out again this year, and I've got it right next to the box that the blue ticks normally use, so you never know. Background, I'll go into the patio later. Another bed here where there's a few little clematis randomly positioned. This monstrosity is actually a tray from my old freezer on top of a geum, because the girls really like the geum. You can see there was various protections there that didn't work because I just reached over, so I just popped that over just now until I can do something a bit neater, let's say. I have hostas that grow in this bed also. There's rudbeckia that come up, some other perennials come up, more Aquilegia for example. There's some geums at the end. Yeah, quite a lot that happens in that bed through the course of the year. So through the arch that has a clematis that will grow up this side, and a clematis that will grow up that side, and I have something else in. What did I put in? Beep beep girls, beep 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 beep. This thing here, what are you? Oh, it's a jasmine, which I got a little cheap jasmine from somewhere, so I'm hoping that will give me some nice flowers and scents up the arch as well. So going through the arch, and it's windy and it's dull today, you might have noticed. Now that guy there is a cardoon, a sort of big thistle-y type thing. I had a couple of them, liked the idea of them. Never ever have I had a flower head on it, or a flower head. I really should take them out, but it keeps popping up and you know, trying to grow is obviously in the wrong place. Anyone out there can give me an idea of what conditions a cardoon likes, or am I better just sort of putting on the compost? I hate doing that, but yeah, I might have to. There's some daffodils there. Now the thing about the beds is there's some weird planting, because I started off with little narrow beds around the edge of the garden so that I had more grass, and as I got more and more fed up with the grass and I wanted more growing space, I extended the beds, so some things maybe aren't quite in the right place, but you know, I'll sort it out eventually, probably. The little obelisk thing there has got a clematis on. It was doing really well, and it sort of half died off last year. Lots of, it was bathed in white flowers the previous couple of years, but not this year, unfortunately. So we'll see, not last year I should say. So we'll see this year what it looks like. A big shrub of some description, can't remember its name, need to look that up, I'm not very informative, sorry. And then here we have some of the hellebores I had in previous videos. They're now flowering well. Hellebores are beautiful. Let's see if I can get this one. Oh, look at that. That's just gorgeous. It's a shame they've always got their little heads down, but I suppose they do that because of the weather. There's a buddleia in there. A viburnum here, which is great, and it gives you little pom-pom flowers, and then blackfly just annihilates it, and I don't want to use chemicals. We'll talk about that as that starts to happen later in the year, and so maybe someone will give me an idea of what to do. This bed down at the bottom, underneath one of the larger sycamores, I have got hostas again, I've got ferns, there's some daffodils coming up, a few other bits and pieces there. Then down at the bottom, we have a rhododendron, a mahonia, and here's the other mahonia. I got two mahonias from, I think, Crocus online. I didn't realise how jaggy they are. Absolutely nightmarish. Have a look. I mean, these things are absolutely... Where's my hand? There's my hand. Absolutely jaggy as it get out. Ow. So I thought, I don't know that I really like them, but they're great architectural plants, and they have, you know, they do flower. You can see the remains of the flowers there, well, all over it actually. Flower really well. It's yellow flowers, so it's good for the birds, and it grows really well. So I've left that one there, and I just sort of try and avoid it, so I don't get jagged by it. And then the other one, I moved that down there just to get it out of the way. I didn't want to dispose of them because they grow really well. So they are great architectural plants. I suppose if you wanted to put them around a perimeter to detract from people or animals coming in, that might be a good idea. Got some primroses down there starting to do their stuff, and a shrub there that will come back to life shortly. Here we have one of my little raised beds. This has grown all sorts of things through the years. At the moment it's got big red poppies, lots of, and then I've got strawberries around the rest of it. Avec my little barriers to try and dissuade the chickens from jumping in. Really, I need to move the poppies somewhere. The poppies are great. They're really, they are pretty wild. They grow even despite me. I'll probably move them. I might move them in there somewhere, so that I've got a bit more space in the raised bed for some veg or something. Maybe sort of shuffle around the strawberries a little bit. Another little bed, again, it's got strawberries in at the moment, so I'll just leave that as a strawberry bed. And then we have a little bed in the middle here. There's some tulips. Oh, there's the wind. some tulips, it's got some more poppies, it's got buddleia, there's some sedum, little sedum, are you coming? There's it. The sedum there, there's some sedum in there, and that's sedum as well, it's a red one, it will come back soon enough. There's some other bits and bobs in there. A Simasifuga, if that's the right name, a sort of ferny looking thing with weird flowers. Some grass, swinging back round again, back of the arch. There's some geum and hostas here. Another raised bed there that's just got some parsley in at the moment, but I'll grow something in there. Not quite sure what's going to go in there. Maybe have some beetroot in there, a little bed, and then beyond that are the broad beans that I have tried to rescue. They were languishing in my cold frame. I'm just aware that I've been twiddling with my microphone, so I don't know whether you'll be hearing that. So there's broad beans in there. I'll take a look at those later. They're sort of a bit blackened at the edges because of some of the frost we've had. Okay, moving on. Sorry, I'm dragging this on. Here is my pond, and that looks great later on in the year. Got a Compost willow here, a weeping willow, which is super. Looking down now to the bottom where where we were just at with the hostas and ferns, etc. Probably missed out some bits. Right, another little raised bed here, and a couple of beds here. This is just coming up to the back of the kitchen, and here we have some tulips coming up, and in these two planters and against the trellises I'll have my sweet peas this year. I usually have sweet peas there. Go back round again to this little raised bed. There's some more broad beans under that little cloche. These guys, big daisy type flowers, need to move them. They've just outgrown the space there, and then that'll give me another raised bed for some veg. Where I put these I don't know at the moment. It's sort of a bit full up. And then we have this little raised area that has daffodils in, and again we've got a sort of trellisy type thing, and there's a clematis that will come back and hopefully more or less cover that, and once the daffodils die down I'll put some other flowers on top. Right, swing around again, sorry. Little bird bath, need to top it up. Down at the bottom, the bird feeding station and the squirrel feeding station. Have some more beds down. Now that lot of greenery there are some more rhododendron, I think 2 white outside, and the middle one is a pink one. Then we have at the other side we have some hydrangea, pinky winky paniculata, which I just love the name, and I think a white one as well. Need to refresh the bark on the steps there. Oh, there's a squirrel just went running. Some pots with lots of bulbs. These are pots with various hebes and, is it a juba? That guy there, the spotty one. Might be a juba. Then there's a rose, not very well tied in. Oh, there's a squirrel, quickly goes round. There, there's some nuts out there. Oh, it's got one. And it's away with it. Okay. This little bed I had tomatoes in. Still got to clear away some of the remnants. And I have tomatoes I grow in this area of the garden as well, because it's a little sun trap. At the moment there's a couple of pots of bulbs of varying descriptions. Now we're looking at the back of the house and the deck, which this year really needs a paint, I think. Oh, here's some more hostas. Sorry, I'm swinging you around left, right and centre. So here's the deck, and in the deck I have a lot of raised sort of vegetable planter type affairs. So we have this plastic one, which is great, and in there, I won't take the lid off because I'm one-handed, but there is spinach, pak choy, rocket, and a winter lettuce that's starting off. I'm improvising with some panes of glass here. For these ones we have, again, we've got some spinach in that one, and in this one, can we see? Can't really see, let's lift it. There's some radish. I don't know whether they're going to do anything, but hey, they're in there. Some salad and some garlic chives. It's all planted very late, so it might not do anything. There's a little rose bush here. You can see I've got some rose hips on it right now. And then this big veg planter's great. I love them. I love the raised planters because it's, you know, it comes up to me. You don't have to bend down all the time. It's really easy to work with. I've got this great plastic cloche, and in here you can see we've got a nice healthy crop of spinach, and there's some pak choy, and there's some chard, and there's also a couple of slug traps. There's one, and there's the other, because there's the odd little slug in there, naughty things, eating my nice vegetation. Then we've got a sort of ivy of some description that grows there, and there's a clematis that comes out of one of those pots, and there's some perpetual sweet peas comes out of the other, and a little buddleia in the corner. So sorry, that has gone on, but that's what the garden's looking like right now. I'll just swing back round again. And I better shut up now because I've gone on forever. But I'll give you an update every month, maybe whiz round it a bit faster. Oh, and I've got the front area to show you at some point as well. But thanks very much for bearing with me, and talk to you again soon. Bye bye for now.